Thank you. Okay, what time? Ick. So I need to delete the other poo that's in there before we get started. Let's get it started. We're up on YouTube. Good morning. Welcome.
This is Mornings with Brian Haldane.
How are you?
I'm really quite something.
Mornings are for coffee and contemplation.
News and newsmakers.
Coffee and contemplation.
Traffic and weather.
I've been sitting here for 2.5 hours and I still don't know why.
See you after evening.
Start your day with Baton Rouge's hub for information and opinion.
Opinion.
Here is Brian Haldane.
606 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Morning, everybody. Welcome in. Brian here with you. Alondra producing. Hope your weekend was an amazing weekend. Hope your weekend was full of a little bit of rest, a little bit of football, and then a little more rest, because it's time to get back at it. And do we have a show for you this morning. Condon's coming down the hall about half an hour from right now. We welcome in Richard Condon pretty much every week. Sometimes begrudgingly, sometimes with open arms. We never, ever know what he's talking about when he gets here until he gets here. That's by design. I have an inkling, an idea of what might be on the table for today, because we're going to talk about that in a segment before he gets down here. But we'll have Condon by at 6:35 to just really kick your week right in the pieces. In our 7 o'clock hour, every Monday at 7:15, we do a little medical segment. We very cleverly named it Medical Monday. And today we're talking about liver cancer. Yep. I'm well aware that it's October and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but I'm pretty sure we're all aware on that front. We'll get to breast cancer as the month wears on, but let's talk a little bit about liver cancer, and you would be shocked to hear the mortality rates here. At 7:15, 7:35, Stephen Waguespack from LABI hops on board, as he does every week. In our 8 o'clock hour, right back to the cancer front, as the Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center has got some big news coming to North Baton Rouge, and Angela Hammett is going to be handling the some of the logistics behind it. So we'll talk with Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center, or we'll talk with Angela at 8:15 about what to expect in North Baton Rouge, get some details there. And then we're going to round out the guest list by talking with Ashley Rodrigue from State Fire Marshal's office as more help continues to head towards Florida. Louisiana, there's no way to not see the headlines, right? Louisiana has been pummeled in recent years, and we are definitely getting our opportunity to pay back by sending folks to Florida. State Fire Marshal's office is out there. St. George Fire Department, Baton Rouge Fire Department. There's no shortage of Louisiana help that is either en route or already in Florida helping out right now. We talked with Judd Johnson on Friday from Volunteer Louisiana about exactly that and the many different phases of help that's needed. I know oftentimes we think about the immediate need, the search and rescue, the debris cleanup, and then, here, if you're here in Louisiana, it's who are we feeding jambalaya to next? But there are many different phases and many different opportunities to help. Rescue and recovery, search and rescue, is one of those phases. So we'll dive in there. Top stories are trending, the outside in, this day in history, and a whole lot more as the show wears on. I got to start off with a little bit of a nod to the weekend, and we're going to talk about this a lot more in our next segment. How about them LSU Tigers? I mean, it was a brutal game to watch. Really tough watch on Saturday night. But you open up the headlines on Sunday, and whoa, hey now, we're in the top 25. How about that? As this season wears on, this first season of Brian Kelly, and as we take everything in stride this season, and two the LSU fan base's credit, this is the best I've ever seen us do when it comes to tempering expectations and enjoying the ride. When it comes to just taking things as they come and saying, that was a lot of fun. What's next? As opposed to the countless hours and phone calls and internet posts about who's doing what wrong and who needs to go and who's not getting the ball versus who is and how it can be done better. Well, there's still some of that, and there always will be. That's part of sports. But as LSU cracks the top 25 this week, just how about a quick little nod to the Tiger fan base for saying, this is a fun little ride, isn't it? It's a different feeling breaking in the top 25 for sure than it felt over the most recent years, where post up the best season in the history of college football and you look at a steady decline, just a fade, a drop off. Like whenever your kid would bring home a helium balloon and the next day there's a little bit of sag in that string because it's not pulling up as hard as it could be. And then the next day a little more, and then a little more until eventually that thing's just on the ground and you're like, throw the balloon away, please. It's garbage now. The helium is done. It's not deflated. The balloon's still full, but it's definitely not flying high anymore. And it's just there, limp and lifeless on the floor. And your kid won't throw it away. Your kid wants to hang on to that balloon. And now, with the Brian Kelly era, that balloon is somehow magically reinflating. It's fun. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the game a little bit. We'll talk about the top 25 ranking. We will visit in with the Saints as well. Coming up next. We'll check sports next right here on Talk 107.3 FM. I was proud of my balloon analogy. I was also super tired when I came up with it. Good morning, YouTube. What's happening, y'all? Everybody good? Everybody make it through the weekend okay? I made money over the weekend. So I lost money on LSU. That's the heaviest I've bet on a game this year. That was the most certain I've been about every game this year. And I took LSU minus a 7.5, and I got in early because I said, this line's going to go up. This line is going to go up. And then as the week wore on, and everybody kept saying, it's LSU Auburn, crazy things happen. And I'm like, oh, no. I still believe I would have covered if Daniels hadn't left the ball game. I think we had 5 passing yards in the second half. How about that? .615, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Haldane rolling right along. Guess I left my first name out of that title. It's fine. Stupid. Yeah. Sports time. It's Monday. Back off. Sports time. LSU Tigers. It was a rough go of it at Jordan Hare Saturday night, but end up on the winning side. End up pulling things out. Tigers are now an LSU team that was projected by Vegas that I think the over-under on wins is, 7? Well, they're 2-0 in the Southeastern Conference. Down 17-0 to Auburn. End up winning 21-17. Coach Brian Kelly says this was a gritty victory.
Exciting win for our guys. Certainly coming back from a 17-0 deficit on the road is not where you want to be, but we found a way. It's been the DNA of this group to battle, to fight, and they certainly did that tonight.
Yeah, how do you get the DNA of this group to be do things in the first quarter? That would be, some decent DNA to have as well. LSU forced 4 turnovers on the night, 3 of them in the fourth quarter. Greg Brooks' interception late in the fourth sealed the victory. Kelly says Brooks anticipated that play.
We were playing a lot of coverage on that down. We went to robber coverage. He was the robber. And I know Matt said to me, he's going to steal this one. He's going to steal it because he had seen the route before and he was just a little late. And he was waiting on it, and he, in fact, stole it. He got the game ball.
And he literally just ripped it out of Coy Moore's hands. Oh, excuse me. Ripped it out of the best receiver in LSU's receiver room last year's hands. For those of y'all that weren't following, Coy Moore, Alabama wide receiver Coy Moore, who transferred over from LSU, said on some broadcast last week that he transferred out because he wasn't getting the looks, even though he was the best wide receiver in that wide receiver room over at LSU. And the host was like, yeah, Kayshon Boutte. Ever heard of him? He's like, yeah, no, he's good. I'm better. 21-17, your final score. LSU only had 85 passing yards on the night. Garrett Nussmeier only had 5 passing yards after coming into the game. As rough as the final score was, and no, LSU did not cover the 7.5, as rough as the final score was, yeah, along with getting the win, it is worth noting that had Daniel stayed in the game, there might be more separation there. We might have seen another touchdown. In fact, might turn into probable. Moving on, though, LSU does crack the top 25. A flip-flop on the top 2 spots in the top 25. Alabama now number 1. Georgia just looked awful against Missouri. They moved down to number 2. They did, however, hold on to the win. Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson round out your top 5. The back half of the top 10, USC, Oklahoma State, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Penn State round out your top 10. So there are 4 Southeastern Conference teams in the top 10 right now. LSU moving into that number 25 slot overall. New Orleans Saints were in London yesterday, losing their 3rd straight game, falling 3 points short of finishing their trip to London with a win. 28-25, your final score. Saints kicker Will Lutz had a 60-yard field goal late in the fourth quarter, missed a 61-yard attempt just a minute or so later as the ball hit both the upright and the crossbar.
I hit that kick in warm-up both ways. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I hit them both as flush as I could. Just honestly, not kind of still in shock. Second one didn't go in.
I mean, you want to talk about a game of inches, like literally 1 more inch over on the upright or 1 more inch further back on the crossbar, and that ball is bouncing through rather than back out. Saints offense had another slow start, turning it over twice. The team committed 10 penalties. By the way, penalties on Saturday night were brutal, too. There was combined between LSU and Auburn, somewhere around 185, 190 yards of penalties. Anyway, back to the Saints. The loss drops them to 1-3. Safety Tyrann Matthew says there's still a long way to go in this season.
Just looking across the locker room, it's a lot of great players, on our team. And, it doesn't always start the way you hope, right? And it's kind of like life sometimes, So, we got a little bit of adversity. And, I think we're going to see what we're all really made of.
I mean, rather poignant considering who that's coming from and how he got to where it is. Here comes the Fox Business Report. Oh, morning, Christy. Christy's workout buddy is just bailing on her now. It's okay. Now you can do whatever workout you want every morning. Not tethered. Untethered. But good morning, Boo. And since Christy's listening, let me go ahead and say we're looking at a high of 86 today. Overnight low tonight, 59. There's no chance of rain in the forecast. And humidity is going to be low as well. Tomorrow's high, 85. Overnight low of 62. We're at 86 on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'm not really seeing a chance of rain in the forecast until a week from Wednesday. So, going to be pretty great. Pretty great weather over the next couple weeks. By the way, right now, we are at 62 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Like a what? Oh. Kill the mic for 1 second. Especially for somebody who used to work in the business. I would like to say that, but you really can't say that when you're making like an exorbitant amount of money off of the. Do I have live reads for TikTok? I don't know. If I've got lives for TikTok, I don't know about it. I'll find out. I mean, I would happily do them. Just need talking points and whatever the Duke else. All right, my playlist editor's frozen. Yeah, this looks like twice an hour in the 8 o'clock hour. I also don't think my computer's talking to the network here. Everything I'm doing is being undone. I tried to kill myself. What you know about this song? Band should have gotten more credit for forming an entire generation. Why do I feel this way? 625 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Richard Condon coming down the hall about 10 minutes from right now. Things will get sideways, I'm sure. Wow, speaking of getting sideways, if you missed out on, well, I guess it's not technically Foodie Friday anymore. So the sponsorship rolls off with the end of Labor Day. It's Foodie Friday anyway. Rocco was in here on Friday. Last half hour of the show. Look, I know I ask every morning, go check us out on YouTube. There's a lot of show that happens on YouTube that doesn't happen on, as Rocco calls it, celestial radio. But things went sideways on Friday, and it's worth going back and checking it out. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane. Go back to Friday's show. Very easy way to see it. It would be the second to last show up there on our channel. And by the way, subscribe while you're there. We we had some fun. All right. Story in the Advocate early yesterday, by James Finn. The headline reads, leaked informants tipping off suspects, inside allegations against arrested Baton Rouge cop. And the picture is of the press conference where Murphy Paul from, 2 months ago now, or a month and a half ago now, where Murphy Paul made a bunch of, it brought us in the fold on a lot of things that were going on. Here's a little bit of the story. After Baton Rouge Police Brass announced in August they had arrested 2 of the department's own officers, allegations against one of the cops amounted to what a policing expert called one of law enforcement's cardinal sins. The former officer, Richard Barrow, is accused of leaking information in ways that may have tainted investigations. A detective wrote in documents requesting a judge's approval to arrest the 4-year BRPD veteran. Barrow, 27 years old, is accused of circulating the identity of a person who reported a shooting to police, yielding death threats against that person, and Barrow allegedly sought payments in exchange for revealing the identity of a confidential informant to a suspect in a separate narcotics investigation, requiring the whistleblower to go into protective custody. Now, leaking a covert informant's identity is viewed in law enforcement circles as one of the gravest transgressions an agent can make. Quote, if it's not a cardinal sin, it's one of them. If it's not the cardinal sin, excuse me. If it's not the cardinal sin, it's one of them, said Ashley Heiberger, a retired police captain in Pennsylvania who now works as a police practices expert. If the information is such that the integrity of a case has been altered significantly, you've wasted a lot of investigative time and effort. But the fact that you betrayed the public trust and violated your oath is more significant. So there's a lot more to this article, 4 pages worth, as printed on 8.5 by 11. There's a lot more of this article, but that's where I want to pause to ask this question. How many different battles can one police department fight at a time? Like when you're fighting the battle inside as much as you're fighting the battle outside, I don't know how you win. Now, obviously, it's easier from this chair to look at it and say, things look really, really bad. It's a different view when you're the one in the hot seat over there. But think about it in these terms. Societally, we're at a place right now where human life has been completely devalued. We're at a place right now, and by the way, look at the headlines from all the surrounding parishes. Forget about Baton Rouge for just a minute. We have a segment called Top Stories and Trending where we look at our local headlines. We have a segment called The Outside In where we look at headlines from the surrounding parishes. I'm going to tell you right now, The Outside In is chock full of shootings. Top Stories and Trending doesn't even have one. I say that. We're still have an half an hour to go. But it's not a Baton Rouge problem societally. It's an all of us problem. Whether you're here, whether you're in Tangipahoa Parish, whether you're in Ascension Parish, whether you're in St. Louis, whether you're in Poughkeepsie, there is a devaluing of human life, and it's showing up in the crime that we see, the nature of the crime that we see, the violent crime that we see. You've got that problem. We're now on the back end of the whole defund the police thing, which is good that chapter's closing. Sucks that the chapter ever opened. You've got previous transgressions of sloppy police work. The Baton Rouge Police Narcotics Department has been an absolute mess in the past. But of every mess that you have to clean up, by the way, don't forget the labor shortage. of every mess that you have to clean up, leaking information about informants, leaking information about people in the community who still have that right-minded sense, that sense of what's right and what's wrong, that sense of civic duty to step up. Is that in my headphones? Oh, I got you. That sense of what's right and what's wrong, to step up, do their civic duty, and report something when they see something. Once that threshold is crossed, it's hard to come back from that. Oh, we got a break. It's 6:31. Time for news on Talk 107.3. I didn't know you were doing that. That was a weekend ago. Oh, they're not done. There's going to be people under rubble that used to be houses and such. The anonymity aspect is where I was going with that. Can I just say I'm not mad about the Saints' loss? I mean, 16 games in a season, you don't have that much time to make up ground, right? I get that. But at the same time, if you're missing Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and you lose by 3, I have to believe that that's a touchdown swing at least, right? All these today, are they going to be out of date? I should have, you know what I should have done? I should have flip-flopped the John Kennedy segment with the police segment. I had so much more to say about that because there's a second story that I wanted to touch on from last week about, where was it? There's a Nakamoto story about judges. Wait. Starting with that one. After questionable decisions from judges and experts says holding them accountable could take legislative action. That's the other end of the battle that the police department's fighting. We have 5 stories in the outside in today, so I'm gonna have to move fast on that one. Uh-oh. This spot needs to be updated. Yeah. It's Reba McEntire now. Oh. Troy says, please finish your last thought. What's hard to do? Fight a war on multiple fronts, Troy. That's what's hard to do. Fight a war on multiple fronts. Is when you've got a PR battle from the public with the defund the police. You've got a society that does not value life. You've got judges who makes catch and release a very real thing. If you've got internally somebody who sours the relationship that is those last few of us who want to do good, do right, and actually report something when something's going wrong, then morning, T-Bob. What up, Rich? What are we talking about this morning? I don't know. You don't know? That's by design. That's how we do it. Time for us to get a look at your forecast. Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo.
See, weekend all right? Pretty cool, man. Dude, you know what? Alan's got to start taking some heat, man. You know, I was listening to freaking the post game, and Deuce goes, "Well, Allen can't tackle, and Allen can't do this." Well, if that was the philosophy, never in the history of the NFL should a coach get fired. Is he a good dude? He sounds like a good dude. See you, man.
Wait a minute.
Alondra, could you do me a favor? Could you just type in ominous music on YouTube? It's just scary, and then play it in the beginning, if you don't mind. I'm going to do something first.
638. Talk 107.3 FM at WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So, you know how we do it on Monday morning. Like to kick your week into gear very early on. We like to get things started off the right foot. Or we just go down the hall and find Richard Condon. Rick!
Good morning, everybody. How are you, babe?
I'm golden, brother. How are you this morning?
Well, after the Saints game, I'm not doing that well, and it's about time Dennis Allen takes a little heat.
You think?
Yeah.
Four games into his tenure.
Do you hear any scary music?
Not yet. But you asked her like 10 seconds ago.
I know. I'm just making sure.
All right.
Because I got something very scary.
We have rolled over to October.
That's exactly right.
Very
scary.
Yeah, we got you now.
You know what I did? Thanks, Alondra. I put together the scariest places in the world you never want to get caught.
Uh-oh.
How you like that?
I like it.
On a Monday. First off, Snake Island, babe. It's near Brazil.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
It's insane.
There's one deadly snake for every square foot.
Right.
Snake Island, North Sentinel Island, because the Sentinelese, they eat people, cannibals. You never want to get caught there.
That place. Yeah.
Death Valley, obviously, because of the extreme heat.
Mm-hmm.
You only get like 1 3/4 inches worth of rain a year.
Right.
Pakistan, Afghanistan, for obvious reasons.
Sure.
Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the two scariest places. Triple S Food Mart on North Acadia, and I got McKinley High School. McKinley High School may be the scariest place that you don't want to find yourself.
Why Triple S Food Mart?
Well, you know, a lot of bad things go down at the Triple S.
I mean, I know one really bad thing that went down there.
Well, the other ones just get lost in all the traffic.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, McKinley High School B, I said it a few weeks ago, you got to shut it down. It's about time this gets shut down. Last spring, what did you have? You had parents getting in fights with kids outside of school.
Yep.
2 weeks ago, you had a brawl, right?
Yep.
2 Fridays ago, they had to cancel a homecoming game. Mm-hmm. And then last Thursday, again, another brawl at McKinley High School. And every time I sign my property tax check, I say yes, because I know all that money's going to a good cause.
I mean,
if I got to see some kid with his new iPhone 13 shoot video of another brawl at a public school in Baton Rouge, it's ridiculous. It's out of control. And Cito Narcisse is never to be found. Mm-hmm. None of the 9 board members on the school board ever say a damn thing. And it's like, if my child goes to a public school, I'd like to have some leadership. I'd like somebody to hold a press conference. I'd like somebody to assure me, here's what we're going to try to do to cut down on brawls at public high schools, in cafeterias, in the hallway, waiting for the bus to go home. It's out of control. Cito never says a damn thing. I've never seen of a lack of leadership. Somebody needs to go in his belly and pull out his chonies because the guy never says a damn thing. It's ridiculous. Don't make excuses.
No, I'm searching my brain to find a way to push back. I very rarely does this segment go by without me giving a little bit as I get, but I got nothing for you, Rich. I completely agree. I don't understand how it can be as bad as it is.
And not one board,
as quickly as it's happening.
And not one school board member says anything either. That's sad. Here's another thing.
You would think somebody would stomp their feet a little bit because it is election season.
You know, here's something else. I'm going to tell you about the damn woke media we got, okay? Like, you need an example of it. But here's a real good example of it, all right? Now, Kim Mulkey is taking heat by some national people and people out there on Twitter because she won't respond to the Brittany Griner situation. All right, let me address this. First off, Brittany Griner hadn't played for Kim Mulkey since 2013. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's 9 years ago. The effort ain't worth the payoff. Why should Kim Mulkey say anything about a woman in a Russian prison because she was involved with drugs at an airport? There's no reason for Brittany Griner. Now, but my main point on this, however, nobody's going to touch Dawn Staley, who, after the investigation came out, that the girl made up the story along with her racist godmother in Fort Worth running for circuit court judge. Why not anybody come out and just butcher and drag Dawn Staley through the alley? Because Dawn Staley came out last week and refused to apologize about dropping BYU as her season opener game. Mm-hmm. How come nobody's on Dawn Staley? No, nobody wants to address Dawn Staley. She speaks like a racist. She's acting like a racist. She refuses. She jumped the gun. Investigations made. Nobody at South Carolina, the chancellor, the president, the athletic director, nobody backs Dawn Staley in the corner and says, why you did that. Now, since you jumped the gun, before the investigation is over, now it's been completed, and you're still going to stick by your guns. Why would Kim Mulkey even address Griner? It doesn't matter.
Okay, that's
she
where
shouldn't
I
have to.
Yes, I completely. I don't know why she would want to on either side. On either side, why should she want to address the Brittany Griner situation? She has nothing to gain. Has Brittany Griner talked to her since leaving Baylor? Do they still? Because I know coaches often still have a relationship with their former players after the fact.
I'll tell you one thing. You know what? You know what I did last week? I burned all my OFOs. I put them in the trash can and burned them.
All your what?
The OFOs. You never seen that? That's a shoe that Dawn Staley promotes. OFOs.
Oh, I never heard of it.
You never seen the commercial?
I've never heard of it.
Wow. All right, B, look, check this out. I got the results of this latest study.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
I'm not making this up. By the way, everything I say here on your show is not made up. It's all legit.
I'm aware of that.
Even though it astonishes certain people.
It at least comes from a fake news spot.
They came out with this. This comes from the Case Western Reserve University of Medicine. They say our immune system can benefit by a little stress. Also, wounds heal quicker while under stress. Ever since Broom's been mayor, I get a cut, it heals overnight. Matter of fact, I had a compound fracture in my femur, and ever since Joe Biden, you know that damn thing healed overnight too. And you know what? I'll tell you what, if stress makes our immune system better and stronger, we live in a perfect town, okay? Because we had 2 cat CEOs. We got them doing meth over there. We got the interstate that's going to be shut down one lane for a year.
That's not true.
We got Mayor Sharon Weston Broom. We got violent crime. We got the school system. If there's a town where you experiencing a lot of stress, it's Baton Rouge, which means our immune system, we have never been healthier in this city, if that study is true.
I don't think that study is exactly right.
And by the way, congratulations to all the people receiving SNAP benefits. The cost of living and goods, they're going to get more SNAP benefits now. And nothing fires me up more than someone in a new model car parking in a handicapped spot with any tag, going inside. I stand in line behind him in a checkout line, or she, and guess what they got? They're using multiple Louisiana purchase cards.
Yeah.
Then they get back out, go into their pretty new car without a handicap spot, and then drive off.
No, and they're pulling the SNAP card from the back of the iPhone 14 case. I'm with you right there.
Hey, you got to
That's
be happy
angry.
about Saturday, right? You get to spend time with the family.
Interstate's squeezing down to 2 lanes, by the way,
Is
not
it right?
one.
Whatever
Yeah.
it is.
All right, go ahead.
You got to be happy about Saturday, right?
Why is that?
Well, because I mean, you produce the game. You
My
get to
Saturday's
enjoy your
gone.
Saturday. You get to go out with the family
I
Saturday
get to
night.
be on campus for dawn and not get to leave
You
until
used to
late
getting up
afternoon.
early. It's good.
No. Look, I might get up early every day, but I'm not a morning person.
You know what? I can't wait. You know why? Because after the game, me and the wife are going to go home, take a nap. Then we're going to get up and go to Piccadilly. We're going to go play bingo at the VFW Hall on Wooddale. It's going to be fun. If she gets crazy now, I'll tell you what, she'll jump up. When she gets blackout, you ought to see her.
Oh, it's blackout and
bingo markers, hitting people in the face with cards. It's nuts, Haldane.
Bingo's fun.
It is fun.
I feel like you're being sarcastic taking
Well,
a
no,
shot
a
at
lot of
bingo.
younger people out there,
You're
including
taking a shot at
producer
bingo.
here, is thinking, guess what? We're going home and putting cream on our arms for liver spots. That's what she's thinking.
No.
Yes, she is.
Bingo's for real, man. Bingo's a legit good time.
You and Christy and me and Sue, we got to go play bingo.
I'm down.
Eat some living beans, onions.
Oh, no. I'm not doing that.
All right, dude.
I'll play the bingo all day long.
And by the way,
Maybe
isn't it a
sip on some old
coincidence that
charter.
the ugliest white people in the whole country were arrested in Tangipahoa Parish? How about the 3 different names? How you like that?
Dude. I mean, there's mug shots, and then there's mug shots.
I tell you what, if they're going to do The Hills Have Eyes, too, they got to do it in Tangipahoa Parish.
That was brutal.
Never has Miss Louisiana come from Tangipahoa.
You know,
I'm just guessing.
I mean,
you know what? They need to get with the sheriff over there when they let him out of jail. Somebody's got to be looking for a scarecrow over there. What are they falling? Soybean with falling over
there before we end up alienating anybody. Your money now.
Beauty queens.
No, thank you. That was fun. I don't understand the blowback on Mulkey. What does she have to gain? Like,
but if you're going to do that, go after Dawn Staley.
I don't do the comparative thing. You could look at Mulkey and say it's crap on the surface.
But then when you do that, then you got to look at that and go, well, how come you're not saying anything? You know why?
No, we all know why.
Dawn Staley was wrong.
What's that?
Dawn Staley was straight up wrong.
She's so idiotic. Freaking Mulkey had more wins in December than she had in a 10th season. She finished with 9.
Right.
Mulkey had 10 wins in December. Well, then when Dawn Staley came here, she says, well, if Nikki Fargas would have got this much support, well, she would have if she wouldn't have had 9 damn wins in the 10th season.
And when she says shit like that, she ought to be dismissed quite, quickly. Because Nikki Fargas had that support in the first 4 or 5 years here. She had that level of support here.
True Nikki Fargas story. You remember when the Y was there by Southside Produce? The Y.
Yeah.
All right. Well, they shut it down there. They making a school out of it. Well, my point is, I would go there every Saturday morning. So I go to Albertsons at Essen and Perkins.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I see Fargas get out of a black SUV with LSU girl players. Y'all had their warm-ups on. They go in there and they just getting liquor and they loading it in a car. Now, I'm not saying the girls were drinking it, but that's not a good PR move.
No.
Girls must have had some party or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
What did she do? She didn't recruit.
No, she definitely didn't do that. I never buy into the.
No, but it's just like you just come to another school and start trying to start shit at the school. You know what I mean? Nikki Fargas had the same support as she did. She was just a shitty ass coach.
Well, she was a good coach, and then she just stopped.
She was a shitty coach.
Her early time at LSU would suggest otherwise.
She ended as a shitty coach.
Yes, there you go. That's correct. Do you have the commercial, essentially? Nice. Oh, how about Southern posting up a 59-3 conference win on Saturday? I have that press release. I promptly ignored it. There's a listeria outbreak in brie and camembert cheese. You know how big? Let me tell you how widespread this outbreak is worldwide. How widespread it is. 6 people. Camembert. I knew that was coming. I freaking knew it. I knew it. Hey, I got to tell you this. I'm glad. I'm glad things are playing out the way they're playing out. Because you know whoever won this don't. Just wait, buddy. Postseason's coming. We will see you soon. We will see you soon. Oh, wait. .652, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Sorry, if you're watching on YouTube and you saw me disappear for a minute, I was very important Major League Baseball trash talking to 10-2 off air with Braves fan Jacob Hester. It's a rough weekend for me as a Mets fan. All right, we got more ground to cover here. It is election season. Senator John Kennedy has an ad out we'll get to in just a minute. Got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's Market. You know where to find them downtown on 3rd Street. But coming up this Saturday, early kickoff on campus, LSU and Tennessee, 11 a.m. kickoff. Swing on by Mathern's. Tell you what, underrated would be those breakfast biscuits they have in the little heater right there. The little, on the end of the salad bar, they get the hot part. Swing by for breakfast on Saturday morning on your way out to Tiger Stadium. And, of course, grab all the beer you can. I need to find out if the beer bar is going this morning. Or maybe they're doing, mimosas and Bloody Marys. I don't know. It'd be kind of hard for a grocery store to do that. But if anybody could, it's Mathern's. They're on campus in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, right across the street from Tiger Stadium. They are your game day headquarters. They are a full-service grocery store every other day of the week. If you've not yet downloaded the Mathern's app, please do so. You want to talk about a great time saver. This is one of those things. They got started with COVID when nobody could go into grocery, or when we were asked not to go inside places. They'll bring your groceries right out to you. Download the Mathern's app. Do your grocery shopping from the app. It saves you a lot of time. It's actually a very convenient amenity. They got them on downtown on 3rd Street. They've got them in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. They are Mathern's. All right. Senator John Kennedy's got a new ad out. And I tell you what, this actually dials back to what we've been talking about. One of the things Condon was talking about, one of the things we talked about in our 625 segment, talking about the battles that police are facing right now. Well, Senator Kennedy brings it to light with this ad.
Violent crime is surging in Louisiana. Local leaders blame the police. I blame the criminals. A mom should not have to look over her shoulder when she's pumping gas. I voted against the early release of violent criminals, and I opposed defunding the police. Look, if you hate cops just because they're cops, the next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead. I'm John Kennedy, and I approve this message.
What are your thoughts? Share them on our YouTube feed. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. I would love to have some interaction on this, some feedback on this. We're a month away from elections. That is a powerful ad. From a strict standpoint of evaluating from the political analysis standpoint, that is a very powerful ad, and it's very well done. If you're not watching it, if you're listening to us on the air, the background video shows like security camera footage of a woman being, I believe, carjacked at a gas station. There are countless stories that we've had here in Baton Rouge and down in New Orleans where that ad will make an impact. From a political analysis standpoint, if you're just judging based off the marketing, that's super duper strong. When you talk about the number of issues that are facing Louisianans today, what is more important to you? You and your family's safety when, I don't know, grocery shopping, pumping gas, going about your daily routine, looking over your shoulder, wondering if you are going to get to and from work, to and from school, to and from soccer practice or basketball or whatever, dance recitals. If you're going to get to and from where you're going in your daily life safely, is that more important to you than legalizing weed, codifying Roe v. Wade? What impacts your day-to-day more? Shootings and carjackings? And not from a statistical standpoint, from a this is what's important to me because I'm worried this could happen to me standpoint. Shootings, carjackings, violent crime, does that impact your day-to-day life more often than legalizing weed or codifying Roe or pronouns or anything else that might fall under the auspices of a political campaign? That's a very effective ad, and it's very well done. John Kennedy has always, and I mean always, had a knack for a turn of phrase like that. And the most beautiful part about it is that ad is going to be talked about so much more. I have a friend of mine who has long since moved out of the state, hates the fact that he's from here. He sent me a message over the weekend. In fact, let me pull up the message. I'm not going to out him I'm not going to out him by name, but I'm more than happy to read you word for word what his message was. Bleeping embarrassing. Truly can't tell people I'm from Louisiana. I responded immediately and said, which part? The fact that that ad exists or the fact that there's a real, tangible need for that ad? John Kennedy doesn't make that ad if crime in Louisiana isn't where it is. John Kennedy runs on something else if crime in Louisiana is under control. That wasn't pulled out of nowhere. That came from somewhere. My next level of curiosity on this front is how do the other candidates rebut? So, dying to get Gary Chambers on the show. Thought we had it squared away last week, but it looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Dying to get Gary on the show, and I can tell you right now what Gary's response is going to be. He's going to call that ad racist. If for no other reason than he calls everything racist. But I've already seen a video on TikTok where Gary says it's racist because he says crackhead and not meth head. Paraphrasing. Okay. If your response is deflection, then you have no response. If your response is a straw man argument, you have no response. If your response is to lean in and say, what is the root of him trying to do that? What is the root of him having to do that? I'm working towards that as well. As a candidate, I'm more willing to lend you my ear and say, okay, what are your answers? But just saying racist and moving on does not get the job done. It does not push the ball towards the end zone, which we're narrowing in on a month away from. Oh, we got a break. Here comes the CBS World News Roundup right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Hour 2's next. The other part of that is Luke Mixon's going to stay out of the fray on this one. I'm relatively certain Luke will stay out of the fray. Paul says, Brian, I love it. My dad was a cop for 43 years, and he can never be a cop today. He used to say, next time you're in trouble, call a criminal, not a crackhead. I think I like it a little bit better. Yeah, it's call a criminal is the old school. Yeah, that's the old school turn of phrase, right? No, don't bother me if you don't like me. Don't vilify me on Tuesday and then ask for my help on Wednesday. That's not that. What's the over? That dog don't hunt. My station go silent last night? Oh, these emails can't go to junk. I have to know about this. All right. Where else are we at here? Eric says, I sent Brian a meme Sunday poking at the Mets, and he sent me a punch emoji. You're fake news, Eric. You are fake news. No, you did send me, you did mess with me about the Mets. I did not reply with a punch emoji. Renee says, I love John Kennedy. I'd vote for him for governor, president, whatever else he runs for. So I don't know about that. What? Not the loving John Kennedy part, the voting for him for governor or president or whatever. I kind of like him where he's at. There are a number of people who have the job that's perfect for them. And I think he fits in that category. Do we? This. Debbie says, but if term limits were voted in, where do you want him next? What's the likelihood of that happening? He's going to get reelected, so he wouldn't be up again for anything for 6 years, at which point he would probably retire anyway. So I don't really know. Probably back home as governor. I don't think he plays well enough for others in order to be the president. Yep. We got a gorgeous week headed in front of us weather-wise. For a look at that forecast, here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. Galen says, I like it too. It's indicative of society's persecution of the wrong ideologies while fitting it into a 30-second ad. So, yes, a 30-second ad is not the time for high-minded debate. That will always fall flat. .706 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane, coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Alondra producing. Ready to rock this hour out here. We've got Medical Monday coming your way in our next segment. We're talking liver cancer in our Medical Monday segment. Dr. John Lyons from Our Lady of the Lake going to be with us to talk about that. Also this hour, Stephen Waguespack from LABI, the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Let's talk a little business to start your week off. But that's all still to come. Hey, we're going to get you to top stories and trending here in just a minute. Want to remind you about lunch. It's still time for breakfast. I'm sorry, I'm looking up the clock. There's still time for breakfast. If you got a minute in your schedule, just swing up Perkins Road right before the overpass, the Garden District side of the overpass. You'll find Zeeland Street, where Miss Stephanie's been doing it right for over 30 years. See, at Zeeland Street, Miss Stephanie is, and I love this because I believe the same thing, food is fuel. Look, tastes great. Yes, absolutely. Feeds your soul, feeds your body. Absolutely. Getting through your day starts with putting the right things in your body. That involves good food. That's what Miss Stephanie believes in. Fresh vegetables, absolutely. She doesn't use meat products in preparing her vegetables. You know how everybody uses like bacon and the green beans as kind of a cheat code? Not Miss Stephanie. She prepares things that brings out the flavors they were meant to be brought out, and it's so delicious. It's so wonderful. Zeeland Street Market, the corner of Perkins and Zeeland. Been around since the 90s. I mean, that's a good minute. And like we said, food is fuel, getting you through your day. So, also she values your time. I always forget about, I don't always forget about this. I like reminding about this. When it comes time for lunch, time is of the essence. Your time is at a premium. Sneaking away for lunch isn't always the easiest thing to do. Miss Stephanie values your time. Your food is out to your table with the quickness. So Zeeland and Perkins and Zeeland, it's Zeeland Street. Swing by for a little love for lunch today. Time for top stories and trending. Let's hit it.
What happened?
Now, top stories and trending
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
on Talk 107.3 FM.
The most trusted name in news.
I want to know absolutely everything that's happened up to now.
Number 5.
Since the announcement of a widening project that will reduce I-10 to just 2 lanes in each direction, 2 lanes in each direction, 2 lanes in each direction between the I-10 and 110 split in the Acadian Thruway, DOTD has been the subject of a lot of public scrutiny. The concern and confusion prompted DOTD to release a video that highlights what the agency says will be the progress after the pain. The department says the anticipation of weather delays recently led them to add an extra 2 months to the project timeline, meaning the construction could take up to 14 months. So erring to the side of the caution, saying, hey, you know what? We often do not have optimal weather in Louisiana, so this could take longer than expected. Now, despite the inconvenience for thousands of drivers over an extended period of time, DOTD says the alternative would have been more time consuming and more costly, to the tune of about twice as long and $50 million more. With the start date in 2024 steadily approaching, DOTD is asking drivers to plan ahead, whether that be working remotely or changing commute times. We're going to talk about that on YouTube a little bit later on this morning. DOTD Secretary Sean Wilson is slated to join us later this week to talk about it.
Number 4.
BER first responders were deployed to Florida to assist with Hurricane Ian recovery efforts. Up and down Florida's west coast, streets are littered and filled with abandoned cars, roofs are torn off, and roads are blocked by flooding and debris. This is still a very fluid environment. Make no mistake, we're nowhere near the recovery efforts we need to be at. This is a very fluid, dangerous environment. Structural integrity, electrical issues, downed infrastructure, and still standing water, Reagan Underwood with St. George Fire Department said. A special group called the Incident Management Team was created by the Louisiana State Fire Marshal's Office to assist first responders in Fort Myers, Florida. They arrived Friday afternoon. Right now, they're doing search and rescue, along with prepping the area for the next steps towards recovery. We're going to talk with Ashley Rodrigue from the State Fire Marshal's Office at 8:35 about these efforts.
Number 3.
4 fire departments were called to assist in fighting a house fire near Millerville Avenue on Sunday. The East Side, Baton Rouge, St. George, and District 6 fire departments were all called to a 2-alarm fire on Rhonda Avenue Sunday shortly before noon. When crews arrived, they found heavy smoke coming from the home. Some firefighters were even forced out due to the extreme heat that was coming from the fire. The homeowner was reportedly able to evacuate the home before the crews arrived. No other injuries were reported. Cause of the fire still under investigation.
Number 2.
While we're talking fires, a family of 4 was displaced after an arson attack scorched their home off Gardier Lane. St. George Fire Protection District said the fire happened around 9:45 p.m. Saturday at a home on General Beauregard Avenue in a neighborhood off of Gardier. Crews arrived to find flames coming from the side of the home, reaching from the first floor up to the attic. The blaze was put out before it could spread to the rest of the building. No one was injured. Red Cross was contacted to help those who were displaced.
Number 1.
Oh, any excuse for a rate hike. State insurance commissioner says you could expect your homeowner's insurance rate to increase, but by how much depends on the cost of Hurricane Ian damages in Florida. If it turns out to be as estimated right now, between 25 and 40 billion insured losses, that would be a huge hit to the international reinsurance marketplace, says Jim Donnellan. There are only a handful of big reinsurance companies worldwide. They cover natural disasters across the planet, and they only have so much money reserved. The companies we deal with here in Louisiana all buy their insurance from these global companies, so the cost of reinsurance is going to go up, which means the cost of insurance is going to go up. Also, all the lawsuits in Louisiana and Florida cost insurance companies money as well, tying up claims for years. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Narrowing in on 100 deaths. Rescuers evacuated stunned survivors on a large barrier island cut off by Hurricane Ian, and Florida's death toll climbed sharply as hundreds of thousands of people were still sweltering without power days after the monster storm rampaged from the state's southwestern coast up to the Carolinas. This story was printed yesterday afternoon. The death toll is long since out of date from then till now and will continue to climb. I believe CBS said we were at 86. They said that at the top of the hour. I would expect that to continue to rise. By the way, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said on Saturday that multi-billionaire businessman Elon Musk is providing 120 Starlink satellites to, quote, help bridge some of the communication issues in the interim. As of yesterday morning, nearly 850,000 homes and businesses were still without electricity. That's down from a peak of 2.67 million. And we will, of course, continue to keep an eye on that death toll. Those are your top stories in trending. We are due up for a break. When we come back from that break, Medical Monday coming up next on Talk 107.3. You got Medical Monday ready to roll? Dr. John Lyons, Friday. I created a folder for today and everything. Where the caller went? Mm-hmm. That's actually already on my list of questions. Yeah. These things are happening simultaneously, or they're actually going to happen where the widening is just about done before the bridge happens. Yes, please make sure I head and tailed. Yeah. I try to make it easy for you when I remember. All right. Oh, yeah, the bridge is going to take a decade. Because this is one of the most infuriating things about this job is sitting back and watching professionals do what professionals do and the amateurs on the sideline who have no want nor interest in actually leading, just shouting from the peanut gallery how they can do it better. It happens in every single thing we see. Yes. With his group, everybody else is wrong.
It's time for Medical Monday, brought to you in the interest of your health by Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center.
Yes, it is time for Medical Monday, and be ready for the head fake, because as the rest of the nation dons pink when we roll over to October, we're taking a different tack today and giving a little love to liver cancer and liver cancer awareness. Dr. John Lyons from Our Lady of the Lake is our guest. Dr. Lyons, how are you this morning?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
I'm glad to have you on here. And I couldn't help but notice the calendar and realize, and we go through this in the Medical Monday segment a lot. There are so many different types of cancer out there that garnering regular attention gets to be difficult. Having awareness for everything gets to be difficult. So I really appreciate you diving in today.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about liver cancer a little bit. Let's start with this. How common is it?
Well, it's very common worldwide. It is liver cancer is actually the leading cause of cancer deaths worldwide. The incidence happens to be a lot higher in sub-Saharan Africa and in Asia than it is in the United States, but it's still a legitimate problem in the United States, with about 41,000 cases diagnosed every single year and about 30,000 deaths from liver cancer every year. So it's there's a significant number of patients.
Wait a minute. Give me those numbers one more time. That's startling.
Yeah, it's about 41,000 diagnoses made every year and about 30,000 deaths from liver cancer every year in the United States.
So roughly 70%, 75% would be.
That's about right. Yeah.
Wow.
And the other startling fact about liver cancer is that the incidence has tripled over the past 40 years. I mean, the incidence, it's one of those cancers where the incidence continues to rise. So I think it's appropriate for us to talk about it because of that. I don't know that it gets kind of the acknowledgement that some of the other big cancers get, but it's a real public health issue.
Do we know why? Do we know why it's so aggressive? Do we know why it's growing?
Well, yeah, there are a number of reasons. The major risk factors associated with liver cancer are hepatitis, and many people are unaware of their hepatitis status. Hepatitis leads to cirrhosis, and cirrhosis is a major risk factor for liver cancer. So the big risk factor for the development of liver cancer is cirrhosis. But one of the big risk factors for cirrhosis is chronic hepatitis, viral hepatitis, or alcohol consumption, or even obesity is becoming a major problem in the development of cirrhosis. There's a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and that's a real entity that, with our rates of obesity going up, we are seeing more of this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which can also lead to cirrhosis, which can also lead to liver cancer. So those are all the explanations as to why our incidence is going up.
I mean, that's about as blunt as a cold dunk in ice water. I mean, that is really, that puts it in very real perspective very fast. So let's start in on some of the symptoms and what folks should be looking out for. What are the symptoms of liver cancer?
Well, unfortunately, the symptoms are very nonspecific. But some of the things that would, if someone is known to have cirrhosis or hepatitis, then they need to be evaluated for that, for liver cancer. And there is good screening that can be done, and we'll get to that in a minute. But in general, most of the symptoms of liver cancer are very nonspecific, unless you have something like jaundice, or if you have fluid buildup in your abdomen, or unexplained weight loss sometimes, or just generalized fatigue, but many, or sometimes abdominal pain, but they're kind of nonspecific, and that's one of the challenges, and that's one of the challenges of liver cancer, because it tends to be diagnosed late, unless you're in a screening program.
And with the case with just about every cancer out there, early detection is key, and if the symptoms are nonspecific, then that would spell out just a nightmare scenario from jump.
That's correct. That's right. Early detection is key. That's exactly right.
We're talking with Dr. John Lyons about liver cancer. So you said we'll talk about screenings in just a second. Let's talk about screenings a little bit. What do we got?
Well, there are good recommendations for screening people with cirrhosis. Like we talked about, the big risk factor for liver cancer is the presence of cirrhosis. And cirrhosis can be very mild or it can be very advanced, but all cirrhotic patients warrant screening for liver cancer. And the screening is done with an ultrasound every 6 months. So it's a non-invasive test. All pregnant women get ultrasound, so they're very familiar with what an ultrasound looks like, and it's a little bit of jelly on the abdomen and an ultrasound to look at the liver and detect if there are any unusual spots. And that has been shown in multiple studies to diagnose the cancer at an earlier stage and then improve mortality from liver cancer. So that has been proven to be effective. And unfortunately, it's not something that's commonly utilized. We don't hear a lot about screening for liver cancer, but it has very good data to support it, and it's been recommended by all the societies. The challenges are that a lot of people don't know that they're cirrhotic, or if they're cirrhotic, getting people to be compliant or sometimes practitioners to be compliant with those tests. It's not been really hit hard in the public sector like so many of the other cancers that we know about. When we think about screening, we think about cervix, and we think about breast, and we think about colon, we think about skin and prostate. Liver cancer is one that we need to think about and have not traditionally thought about in the same way as those other ones.
I mean, to be fair, not to make light of it, but an ultrasound is a lot less invasive than looking for colon cancer.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's a lot easier than a colonoscopy. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything about a colonoscopy because it's a very important test too. But yes.
No.
Invasiveness, yes, it's a lot less invasive.
I'll tell you every single time.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Getting liver cancer.
Well, people with cirrhosis primarily, and the people who are likely to have cirrhosis are people who have hepatitis, have had chronic hepatitis, or have a history of heavy alcohol consumption, or a combination of heavy alcohol consumption with hepatitis, and then the other one that we're seeing more frequently is obesity. Mm-hmm. Obesity causes this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which can also cause cirrhosis, and then the cirrhosis is really the big risk factor. And then there are lots of other congenital factors. There's some conditions that people are born with that predispose them to cirrhosis and then liver cancer. But in the main, the big things that we think about are hepatitis, alcohol consumption, and obesity being the up-and-coming one, with our obesity rates, especially in the South, rising so much.
Yeah, the obesity rate continually on the rise, and the drinking's been on the rise as well. Let's talk about that for one quick second. Where should the red flags go off when it comes to alcohol consumption and that which would lead to cirrhosis?
Well, I think the red flags are really if you're consuming an exorbitant amount of alcohol on a regular basis, it's something to be evaluated for, because cirrhosis can be arrested. It can stop in its tracks if the alcohol consumption is stopped as well. But it will progress if someone continues to drink. So I think it's a good thing to talk to your primary care doctor about. And many times this can be evaluated either with an ultrasound or lab tests to help identify whether someone has cirrhosis or is developing beginnings of what looks like cirrhosis.
We're talking with Dr. John Lyons about liver cancer. Let's go back to those screenings for a second. Who can call for that? Who can call for that ultrasound? Like as a potential, as the patient, can I just say I'd like one? If I say, hey, I weigh a few extra pounds, I drink a little more than I should, I'd kind of like to get a look.
Well, the ultrasound is really it's really for people who have known cirrhosis.
Okay.
The data doesn't support screening everybody walking the street with an ultrasound because most people aren't that high risk for liver cancer. But if you are, and if you have one of these problems we're talking about, hepatitis, a history of longstanding hepatitis, if you have a history of heavy alcohol consumption, if you have metabolic syndrome and fatty liver disease, those are conditions that predispose you for cirrhosis. And certainly, if you do have cirrhosis, then you need to have screening of your liver, and that would be every 6-month ultrasound that would be recommended.
Medical Monday, presented by the folks over at Our Lady of the Lake, and we're talking liver cancer with Dr. John Lyons. All right, I've put it off as long as I can. We've got to get to the heavy stuff. Let's talk treatment options, and outcomes.
Well, the outcomes are obviously a lot better if it's diagnosed early. When it's diagnosed early, we have lots of treatment options. The best treatment options usually require surgery or some sort of surgical procedure to either remove the tumor or to cook the tumor with heat. Or some people will actually qualify for a liver transplantation, which is a very good treatment for liver cancer. It's the only cancer that I'm aware of that you can actually get a new organ and you will qualify for a transplant of that new organ. And that can be very effective because not only does it treat the cancer, but it treats the underlying problem of cirrhosis as well. So those would be the best treatment options available.
Beyond that, what are out there that aren't necessarily, if you're not diagnosed early?
Well, there are lots of other options. There's systemic medication, so it's not necessarily chemotherapy, but it's medication that would be given by a medical oncologist. There are radiation options. You can some people it's appropriate to have the liver radiated, and there's also something called intra-arterial therapy, where, and this is kind of neat, the artery is accessed and a catheter is inserted into the artery, and just like you would for like a heart stent or something, but instead of going to the heart, the catheter is advanced towards the artery in the liver, and then once inside that liver artery, they can deploy it's usually done by a radiologist, will deploy either chemotherapy or sometimes small radiation beads into the tumor itself, and that can be very, very effective, and it's obviously a lot less invasive than surgery is. So those are all good options for people who have more advanced tumors. So there are lots of treatment options available, but it's still it's a major problem, and obviously the outcomes are much better when we catch them early.
Big part of what we do here is raising awareness. So where can folks go to learn more?
Well, we have a webpage with a lot of good information on it. It's ololrmc.com/liver-cancer. No spaces, all one word, ololrmc.com/liver-cancer. And then there are a lot of good, data from cancer.gov and similar national type web pages like that.
He is Dr. John Lyons. I appreciate a couple minutes. I mean, startling information, but very, very deep and very thorough. Dr. Lyons, thank you so much for the time this morning.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I was, when we started digging in on that, I was taken aback by the mortality rate there. I mean, it's roughly 75% is that you lose 75% of those who are diagnosed too late. Paul over on the YouTube chat says, I beat stage 4 liver cancer. I guess I'm lucky. Unbelievably so, sir. And good on you. Stay after it. Those numbers were startling, to say the least. And like I said at the beginning of the segment, yeah, it's October. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're not going to overlook that by any stretch of the imagination. Got a long way to go throughout the month, but I was pleasantly surprised when the folks over at Our Lady of the Lake said, let's talk about liver cancer. I'm like, yeah, let's. There's no shortage of cancers out there that could use a little bit of attention every now and then. So we're going to talk business in our next segment. Stephen Waguespack from LABI is going to hop on board. We chat with Stephen every Monday. No shortage of things to talk about. Before we get you to news at the bottom of the hour here, let's go ahead and refresh where we're at on the tropics with Hurricane Ian now past us. Or not past us, but gone as recovery continues. There are 2 disturbances out in the Atlantic right now. The first of which is a series of showers and thunderstorms associated with a tropical wave located several hundred miles east of the southern Windward Islands. It has become slightly better organized over the last 24 hours, and a tropical depression could form within the next few days if it moves generally westward, and it is moving westward at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. So as this thing reaches the Windward Islands and then the Caribbean Sea, after that, we will have an eye on it. Its formation of becoming a named storm over 5 days is at 40%. Now, if you back up to the other side of the Atlantic, an elongated area of low pressure located just a few hundred miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands continues to produce disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are forecast to be favorable for some gradual development, and a tropical depression is likely to be by the end of this week due to increasing upper-level winds. That storm, by the way, has a 70% chance of becoming a named storm over the next 5 days. So nothing of imminent threat right now, but we are not done with the hurricane season just yet. Let's take a quick break for news. When we come back, we'll talk business on the backside with Stephen Waguespack. Mm. Crap. I got signed out of Spreaker. I have no idea how many people listen to my podcast over the weekend.
I'm Jeff Palermo, the Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge Newsroom. The Louisiana Department of Education.
Rat. Rat. I'm curious to find out about this new energy center. Little green hydrogen stuff. UNO. Amele. Yep. Impossible to not have in your head, right? Food stamps. I know.
What the hell? People are just getting $939. Doing DoorDash on the side to survive.
Yes. Because it's more rewarding. In the long term, it actually is. It might have been Barstool Sports tweeted out the last time LSU was number 25 and we played number 8 was the opening of the 2018 season versus Miami. That worked out well. Yeah, that isn't this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was the last time they were here? Yeah, you know who did that, right? T-Bob. T-Bob was the center. If he doesn't snap the ball, they don't throw the flag. If they don't throw the flag, we lose the game. They do throw the flag, we get the free down, and we score and we win. Right? Yeah, that's like part of the lore of T-Bob. What are we talking about? Yeah. School standards and a cool dinner. Oh no. Like T-Bob is the linchpin of the 2011 2012 was when the championship game was when we went undefeated, and then got just pecker slapped by Al. Oh wait, God, I hope my mic wasn't on for that. Hey, time for us to get a look at your forecast. Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. Do I? Okay. So there's been all kinds of rumors that there were fights in the locker room of the Superdome at halftime when we were playing Alabama in the national championship game, and Les Miles wouldn't pull Jordan Jefferson out and put Jarrett Lee in. Jarrett Lee had shown success. Jordan Jefferson obviously wasn't getting the job done. Well, a lot of it was like, that's not his MO. Well, like, was there a fight, like an actual fight in the locker room? That's been the rumor for 12 years now, or 10 years now. Excuse me. .737 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to talk a little business. We welcome in every week Stephen Waguespack, the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Stephen, good morning. How's your Monday starting off, man?
It's good, man. How you doing, Brian? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Weekend was good. I love the football weekends because it's not really like a football weekend. You work football on Saturday and then barely try to keep up on Sunday. So, hey, are you sweating the Saints right now, or are you worried or not worried?
Oh, you could put me in the sweating category, to be honest with you. And, look, obviously losing stinks, and so no one likes losing. But the things we're doing, we're not playing like a veteran team. We're making silly mistakes. We got serious questions at quarterback. You've got some age on that team that if all of a sudden it looks like we're getting to a hopeless category, I worry what they do in the long haul. And, oh, by the way, we traded our first-round pick next year to move up to get Olave, who's going to be awesome. But if we end up struggling and all of a sudden that draft pick looks pretty good, it's going to hurt, giving that away to the Eagles. So there's just some things right now. And I don't see big strides in fixing that. So hopefully the coaching staff on the flight back across the pond really put some sweat equity into trying to fix some of those things. Because I worry you get another loss or two on this. Some of those bets are going to start to say, wait a minute. Am I going to risk this or that for a season that's not going to make it to the playoffs? And that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, and you run the risk of the perception of the rest of the season is based off of what's already happened. You're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. But
no, not at all. I mean, shoot, you're in the cellar of the West.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Tampa Bay's 2-1. They're not a perfect team, and they've got some issues as well. So you're 2 games back, and you get a win, and some of your others that get a loss, and all of a sudden you're way back in it.
Tampa's defense was grossly exposed last night. That was that made me money. That was great.
Well, when you got Mahomes, dialing up on the other side, I think most people get exposed against the Chiefs these days.
I like a good jump pass for a touchdown. You don't see enough of them.
Who doesn't, man?
Right? Well, unless it's Tebow in your own house, and then it gets.
Now, why you got to bring up the Tebow pass?
I didn't.
You know who he did that against, and you know that.
I know.
Still
It stings, doesn't it? Still. I know. I'm sorry. I'm not to the sweating category yet because Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara were both out yesterday. So I take that into account.
I'd like to see the Rocket play with those two guys in the lineup. I think, unfortunately, and I'm not an anti-Jameis guy, but I do think the Red Rocket gives the best chance to win until we get some success under our belts. And you get those guys back in. I'd like to see him maybe get another start, but that probably won't happen.
Walking back doesn't heal in a week. I'm right there with you. It's not an anti-Jameis thing. It's you go take care of you so we can get the most out of you thing.
Yeah, it's not you. It's us. That's right. I got it. Yeah.
Do we want to start with school standards this morning, or do we want to start with entrepreneurship?
This entrepreneurship should put on your radar because I think it's an interesting dialogue I had last week. So real quick, last week, there's a guy named Kenny Wynn. I don't know if you ever dealt with Kenny Wynn before. Yeah, okay. So he's investor in Soji, great restaurant on Government Street. Mm-hmm. He runs a cool firm, 368. They do all kind of cool marketing and change agent type stuff. And about a month ago, he said, "Hey, I'm going to get 10 guys. 6 or 7 people I know, and you get 6 or 7 people you know, and let's have a dinner where we kind of get people together to talk about like, hey, how are we going to fix Baton Rouge?" And so I brought in people he didn't know. He brought in his, and we had a dinner last week, and some laughs and fun and drinks and all that stuff. But also along the way, there's some really cool discussion. And I walked away really kind of encouraged that there's this cool, young, professional, optimistic layer here in Baton Rouge. And so many times you turn on the television or open the paper, and all you hear is like, hey, another crime, another shooting, another this, another that. But man, these young professionals, they're optimistic about Baton Rouge, and they love what Baton Rouge has the potential to be, and the culture it brings, and the things that they find interesting about this area. And it's good to kind of get out of your comfort zone and hear the perspective of others of what they see. And so we kind of had that dialogue, and it also allowed me to, and some of my crew, the old timers, if you will, to talk to them and say, hey, what can we do to help improve that? But also, guys, there's some things coming up that's going to make it hard for y'all to stay here. Like, we got an education system that's not delivered. And right now you don't have kids in it, so you don't realize it. But one day it's going to hit you. And I don't want y'all to leave. And so we tried to get them excited on some of the policy issues that are important for long-term success. And they tried to put on our radar some of the cool features that young professionals like themselves want. And, it wasn't any big discoveries, but it definitely was a good icebreaker. And I think we're going to try to put together some more dialogues like this. And you get more, folks from different circles start talking about the future of Baton Rouge. All of a sudden, you're going to start to have the beginning of hopefully what's a grassroots movement to try to make some change here and see some results there. So very encouraged. I don't know if you've ever had Kenny on, but, man, he just got a very optimistic view of what Baton Rouge can be. He speaks for a lot of the young professionals here in this town, and I kind of walked away really encouraged and said, you know what, Baton Rouge got something to build off of with this next generation.
Yeah, it's always fun talking with Kenny because it makes you look at yourself in the mirror and say, when did I start to lose my dreams? When did I start to lose my idealism? No, I look in the mirror as a total I mean, I'm only 45. It's not, we're not old, Stephen. But at the same time, though, it's like, where did that level of optimism dwindle? How did it dwindle so quickly?
Well, look, we're not old, but at the same time, I've been in kind of public policy and, trying to make a difference for a long time. And all of a sudden, when you start, getting on the 15, 20-year mark of making a difference, and there are some things, you've been hacking away at that you don't see the results at, you can start to question, is it worth the effort? Or are we making a difference? And, it's good to get outside of your own echo chamber sometimes and talk to some other folks to get that reality check. And so last week, I did that, and it really kind of rejuvenated me to say, yeah, there is great opportunity here, and there are some good things going on. Sometimes it's covered under the brush and the camouflage of all the angst and the drama with crime and all the other things, but there's a solid base there, and we have to do everything we can to make it so much easier for folks like that to stay here, to start a business here, to raise a family here. And if we lose that, that's where we, going down the road, Baton Rouge is going to truly start to wobble a little bit. But, anyway, long story short, it is worth fighting for big change. And coming up with next year's election cycle, you're about to have a ton of candidates across the aisle and across the spectrum and the legislature, at statewide elected official, and they're going to be out asking for votes. And now's the time to kind of figure out, what is your big ask of these folks? What are you specifically going to ask them to be bold on to make sure that they're going to be running on big change and not just big status quo?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be an uphill. I'm kind of talking about being the old curmudgeon and whatnot. I'm so jaded on all that right now. It really does turn us to the next generation, though. And it's setting the table for the next generation as well.
But the next generation, man, when you talk to them, they're not going to sit around and tolerate the broken political system we have right now. They're done with it. And so, they want people who heard me about solutions. And, yeah, they like cool talking points like the rest of us, and they can get captivated by a cool mailer from time to time as well. But what they want are solutions. They want people who are not going to be scared to not just stand on strong convictions, but also listen to the perspective of others and put together a solution that fixes something. And so they're kind of open to what those solutions are, but they're pretty high standard when it comes to someone who's going to take the right approach to get there. So I don't know. I kind of like the fact that they don't put themselves in categories as much. Political categories and all that stuff's not really a big deal to them. They want to say, what are you doing to make it a better place here to stay and to start your career here? And I don't know. I think they're going to put more pressure on these candidates next year than maybe I gave it credit for earlier. And it's imperative on us to kind of fill some of those generic holes with policy, and to say, look, it's good to be optimistic, but you got to know what you're asking for and fighting for.
Yeah.
And the truth is, if we don't fix our education system here, then you don't have a chance. If we don't, do something on the gridlock on the infrastructure here, then you don't have a chance. If we don't do more of a concerted effort to create jobs, to benefit of bringing some industry here that can grow and expand opportunities here, then we don't have a chance. And so we've had conversations on that, and there's a lot of optimism on some of that policy discussion at the table.
There's a natural segue right there when you talk about revamping education, and that brings us around to school standards.
Yeah, man. Look, we've talked a little bit on this show, and next week the State Board of Education is going to decide what they do with school standards. And right now I think we're trending to a kick the can concept next week. I don't know if they're going to do anything on this, and it just blows my mind, and it's extremely disappointing. And the reason why is this: right now we have a public education system in crisis. And it's not because any of the adults in the system aren't trying their best and working hard. There's nothing against any of those adults, but the kids right now, their scores are down. Less than half of our kids at third grade can read at grade level. We are 49th in the country when it comes to fourth grade English and math. Of the 82% of the kids that we graduate and we send off to higher ed experiences, less than half of them stick around for a second semester. Of about 10,000 of our graduates each year need remediation when they go to post-secondary options. We only have 18% of our kids that are graduating each year with a career-focused diploma. And considering the jobs we have, we need that to be more like 50%.
Yeah.
And so there's so many stark, sobering statistics coming out of that. Yet when, there's an effort to try to improve some of these standards, put more points in there for remediation of reading and math, put more points in there for high-quality career and tech ed instead of just dumping ground courses. When there's an effort to do it, for some reason, the local school systems are pushing back hard, and Bessie is being receptive to the argument of do nothing and give us more time, give us more time, and give us more time. And I just don't understand it. There's a lot of good people on Bessie. They see the same issues. They're running with their heart and the right reasons, but they are just it's kind of like that deer in the headlight thing. The policy paralysis has set in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you can look at these stats and not say we're in a crisis, and it's our duty, it's our moral imperative to do something now so we can look those kids in the eye down the road and say, you know what, we did everything we could to put you in a better position than you were today.
And the thread that binds these two topics together, Stephen, is finding a reason to say yes rather than looking for the reason to say no.
Correct. If you don't like the current proposal, bring a solution that fits the spirit of the proposal, which is raising standards, doing a better job of encouraging schools to get serious about reading and math, and putting more kids in career-focused diplomas. If your focus is that, hey, any amendment's acceptable. But if your only answer is no, and until you bring me the perfect, I'm going to be a no, well, I mean, that's not trying to get to yes. That's trying to justify a no. And if we weren't in a crisis, you could maybe get away with that. Well, too bad, so sad. We're in a crisis. And so it's time to find a way to get to a yes, as long as that yes is within the guardrails of raising standards, getting strong signals to demand improvement on reading and math and remediation, and demanding schools deliver high-quality career options and ramp up that 18% career-focused diploma to closer to 50-50 as soon as we can.
How do we work on nurturing and guidance versus just saying no and pooping on it from the start? It's a great conversation to have. Hey, I want in on this next round of talks, man. So holler at me next time you and Kenny break bread. I want in.
You bet. You're in. You're on the invite list next time. Write it down.
I greatly appreciate it. He is Stephen Waguespack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. We'll look forward to the next visit, man. Talk to you soon.
Who dat? Let's go.
That's right. Who dat, baby? Like, no Kamara, no Thomas. And, I'm not hating yet. Interesting conversation going on over on the YouTube side as we were talking about, like, finding the positive versus just emphasizing the negative. The level of cynicism that's out there, it's very easy to feed into that. We'll continue that conversation on YouTube. Right now, let's get you to a quick break, check a traffic, then we're right back. All right. Galen says sometimes it helps to not dwell on the negatives, but the positives. What are the top 3 positives for BR? I couldn't think of any. Why not? Why can't you think of any positives for PR.
Paranes is pretty good.
What?
Paranes is pretty good.
It's Parans.
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 Yeah.
Wow. Okay, top three. Like, if you want to go with three positives, there is a community of Baton Rougeans that is ignoring the crime in order to do their own thing. I shouldn't say ignoring, not letting it stand in their way.
I want to get in on Stephen Waguespack's dinners.
Right?
I'm the next generation that wants results. Or what was he saying?
Are you going to think positively and find the positives, or are you going to say everything's going to hell in a speedboat and it all sucks and this place is terrible?
I've said before that Baton Rouge has so much potential that they just don't do anything with it.
And we have the populace here, the overwhelming majority of the populace. And this is the part that I can't understand. Like, the number of people who actually are the drains on what we're doing, the criminals, the no-show parents, like, it's a smaller percentage, but it weakens all of us because the number of us who do nothing but complain, and I mean nothing but complain. This place sucks. Okay, what are you doing to change that? What are you doing to change that? I mean, there's nothing you can do. Yes, there absolutely is. Be the change you want to see in the world. Either that or just get out. Move. Go someplace. Go to your ideal utopia that it's so frustrating, especially on social media, where the bitch sessions just fester themselves. Storm says, I can't think of one positive. I can't believe that you can't think of one positive. From a business perspective, look at the number of big successes we've had in our own backyard.
I also just want to ask the YouTube, like, are y'all into, like, if we were to do trivia instead of Family Feud on Fridays? Like, switch it up a little bit?
I've got a ton of trivia upstairs.
Yeah, because I'm running out of Family Feud cards.
And nobody remembers all of them.
Okay.
But
yeah,
we could
trivia.
switch it up.
We could switch it up and do some trivia.
So there was something on here about students that don't care. Oh, okay, Alondra, you already hit on it. Students don't care because parents don't care. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we've created a society. And this is bigger than Baton Rouge. This is every freaking where you go. $7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Thanks again to Stephen Waguespack for hopping on board, but for sparking so much great conversation over on the YouTube chat. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe while you're there. How do you embrace the positives and not ignore the negatives? But for those that want to see this place grow, how do you help with nurturing and guidance versus just squashing dreams to say everything sucks and everything always will suck? It's a great conversation. We're having it over on our YouTube chat. In the meanwhile, every day at this time, we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish to check on the surrounding metro area. We call it the Outside In. Let's roll. Unfortunate soundbite considering the last segment. All right, because here's your answer. Starting off at Ascension Parish, a man died Friday night after he was shot in an Ascension neighborhood earlier that day. The shooting was first reported around 2 p.m. on Oak Meadow Street. Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office said one male victim was taken to the hospital. Around 8 p.m., the Sheriff's Office reported the man died from his injuries. No other details surrounding that shooting were immediately available. Next stop, St. John the Baptist Parish. A woman was caught in Baker after allegedly shooting someone to death in reserve. Authorities had believed she was in the capital area, and turned out she was. The St. John Parish Sheriff's Office said they responded to the shooting on East 21st Street in reserve on Saturday. Upon arrival, deputies found an unidentified victim had been shot to death. Investigators believe 21-year-old Ashley Marie Johnson Washington is responsible for the shooting. Detectives said Saturday afternoon they believe she was in the Baton Rouge area. She was captured in Baker Sunday evening and is in custody. Heading west to Lafayette, a 21-year-old Louisiana man has pleaded guilty to the grisly kidnapping of a teen he met through a dating app for gay and bisexual men, and his sworn statement says he planned to kill and dismember gays until he was caught or killed. Oh, this story is nuts. Federal prosecutors agreed to drop hate crime and other charges against Chase Seneca of Lafayette when he pleaded guilty Thursday. Seneca was 19 when he handcuffed, choked, and stabbed and slit the wrists of 18-year-old Haldane White, then called 911 and waited for police outside his father's house. Court papers give only White's initials, but his family identified him at the time and called for the hate crime charge that was later added. Seneca's statement said he used Snapchat and Grindr, which is mainly used by gay and bisexual men, to set up a meeting with White, tried to murder and dismember him on June 20th of 2020. A day earlier, he said he used the apps to set up a meeting with another gay man, but decided not to kill him. Seneca is also facing charges of attempted second-degree murder and committing a hate crime here in the state. Let's make a stop in Livingston Parish. Deputies are investigating after gunfire erupted right outside Jubin Crossing late Saturday. The Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office said they responded to a report of shots fired at the mall around 9:30 p.m. Deputies said they found shell casings in a grassy area just outside mall property. No one was injured. No property damage was reported after the incident. Closing out in Tangipahoa Parish, a story Condon alluded to earlier in the show. 3 people were arrested following an overnight standoff after allegedly shooting at deputies and wounding one of their canines. The Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office said around 10 p.m. they were notified of 2 suspicious men with guns walking around the Beatico Creek Lane trailer park just east of Ponchatoula. Deputies responded to the area. They were, quote, almost immediately taken under fire. They attempted to arrest 52-year-old James Lloyd with a canine unit when the other suspect, 21-year-old Thomas Loftus, fired towards deputies and struck the canine Bella in the jaw. The standoff lasted several hours. Lloyd, Loftus, and Charlotte O'Regan were all arrested. Bella, by the way, only sustained minor injuries. She's going to be fine. That's the Outside In. Let's get you to CBS News here on Talk 107.3 FM. Hour 3 is coming your way next. 5 stories, and I got it done. How about that? How about that? Michael Kastner's dog was named Bella. Michael Kastner, former afternoon drive host on J-Bo. I used to produce her show. Oh, seriously, one thing I like about Baton Rouge is the diversity. There are world-class academics and salt-of-the-earth types who I grew up with here. Works for me. Yeah, we have all that here. We have here. Where's the story? Here. Dateline Baton Rouge. Once again, LSU has brought in its most accomplished freshman class in university history with an all-time high median GPA of 3.78 and an ACT composite of 25.5. The freshman class is made up of 67.5% of students from Louisiana, 32.5% from out of the state. You can't tell me Baton Rouge doesn't have anything if just over two-thirds of the highest academic LSU freshman class is from right here. We've got the people. And clearly we have enough parents raising the people. It's just we allow all the attention to go to that smaller portion of people who aren't within that group. We allow it to suck all the energy out of the room. From a news perspective, nobody's going to pay attention to it if we do these stories all day long. as opposed to fights at McKinley High. We have a want as human beings to dwell in the muck and mire of the worst of us than to celebrate the best of us. I suck at it. I can't dwell in the muck and mire. I don't know why I can't do that. I'd probably have better ratings if I did do that. I've never had that ability to want to feel better about myself by tearing everybody else down. Jealous of that. Nothing, thinking out loud. Or thinking in my head. Which is where you would think. That's stupid. Yeah, that's what we call thinking, Brian. Brr, brr, brr.
I will say when I first moved to Louisiana, it was a complete culture shock.
Why?
It's just very different here from like everywhere else. Well, not everywhere else. I only really have Texas to reference, but it's very different here than in Texas. Like in terms of like everything, like the education system, the infrastructure, the culture, everything is different. And it's literally like right next door.
Yeah. Do we have an interview right after 9 o'clock? I don't think we do. I hope not. Yeah, well, sometimes after the weekend, they don't get them in right. Time to get a look at your forecast. Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Alondra producing. Stacked up hour this hour. We're going to talk a little bit more about the efforts going on in Florida right now for rescue and recovery. Ashley Rodrigue from the State Fire Marshal's Office slated to join us at 8:35. She'll be on the hotline to chat about what that means from the Fire Marshal's Office perspective, as that is one of many, many outfits here in Louisiana that is either already in Florida helping out, or eastbound and down, ready to get over to Florida, or gearing up for that next phase. We talked with Judd Johnson from the Volunteer Louisiana group last week about what that next phase looks like. It's rescue and recovery right now. When they get to the rebuild phase, they just, need a little muscle to hang sheetrock. Need somebody with a little bit of flair in the kitchen to maybe cook a little bit. There are so many different aspects of how we can help. And in the coming days and months, we are going to see those great folks from Louisiana popping up, heading east, and helping out. We were talking with Stephen Waguespack in the last hour about the generation or the group of young entrepreneurs we have here that are just defiantly optimistic about who we are and what we can be. And the conversation on the YouTube chat turned to a lot of negativity about, I don't know what's positive about Baton Rouge. Well, how about taking a time like right now where Florida is hurting, where Florida is damaged, where Florida is knocked down, and the number of Louisianans headed over there to help them back up again. Yeah, they helped us out. We're going to do the exact same. Just little nuggets like that. We could take away a little bit of positivity on that front. In the meanwhile, we're also talking this hour with, stop putting your stuff away, Angela Hammett. There's news coming to North Baton Rouge from the Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. That'll be our next segment. Right now, though, we go back in time. Alondra has this day in history.
All right. It's Monday.
You're trying so hard to make that sound
I'm
real.
trying so hard. I'm trying to hype myself up.
Mm-hmm.
Monday, baby. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
All right.
All right. In 1849, American author Edgar Allan Poe is found delirious in a gutter in Baltimore, Maryland, under mysterious circumstances. It is the last time he is seen in public before his death.
Yeah, he was probably high.
Yeah, he was definitely on some shrooms or something. Yeah.
I think he did opium.
Oh, was it opium?
Yeah, I think he did opium.
Okay. In 1863.
I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. You like Poe?
I
Love
don't
me
know.
some Poe.
The Raven, right?
The Raven's
Yeah.
good one, yeah. Cask of Amontillado.
Okay. Yeah.
Monkey's Paw. Monkey's Paw was one of my favorites.
Interesting. I'm going to have to read Monkey's Paw.
Fall of the House of Usher was a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usher's house spell?
Yeah, Usher. Usher. Yeah, man.
In 1863, U.S. President Abraham Lincoln designates last Thursday in November as Thanksgiving Day. So on Thanksgiving this year, I'm going to thank Abraham Lincoln.
You should.
I am. I'm just saying
just on
thank you.
general principle.
Yeah. In 1913, U.S. federal income tax signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson. It was
Not going to thank Woodrow Wilson.
not thankful for Woodrow.
Stick it, Woodrow.
Yeah. Woodrow can kiss it. It was at 1%. In 1974, future Basketball Hall of Fame guard Jerry West retires after 14 NBA seasons with the Lakers.
Go ahead.
Yeah. In 1990, less than 1 year after the destruction of the Berlin Wall, East and West Germany come together on what is known as Unity Day.
Oh.
Yeah. In 1995.
I feel bad for the dyslexics that showed up for Nudity Day.
I feel bad for them too. They probably all got arrested. It was just a huge misunderstanding.
Yeah.
After a sensational trial, former football star O.J. Simpson is acquitted of the brutal 1994 double murder of his estranged wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. Her friend.
Her friend, Ronald Goldman.
Yeah. Mommy's special friend.
I still believe the conspiracy theory that OJ's son did it.
I mean, dude, the glove didn't fit. Like,
Everything about the whole scenario, the car chase, the slow Bronco chase, was a head fake.
Yep.
It was a distraction for the real getaway.
In 2006,
Hey, to the world.
I like this. I like this one. In 2006, American drama series Friday Night Lights, starring Kyle Chandler and Connie Britton, premieres on NBC.
Why is that part of this day in history?
Because I love that show.
Oh, okay.
Great show.
Fantastic then.
In 2021, Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady becomes the NFL's all-time leader in career passing yardage.
Yeah, stick it.
Yeah. During the game, he went 22 for 43 for 269 yards to pass Drew Brees' high of 80,358.
Yeah, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Keep that.
Okay.
All right.
Born on this day in 1900, Thomas Wolfe. He's a novelist. Look Homeward, Angel.
Uh-huh.
That was one of his books. In 1941, Chubby Checker.
Okay.
In 1957, Dave Winfield, Hall of Fame outfielder, played for the Padres and the Yankees.
Yes, he did.
In 1954, Al Sharpton.
Yep.
Also in 1954, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Rest of the bumps for today are just going to be Stevie. In 1962, Tommy Lee.
Okay.
In 1969, Gwen Stefani.
Got it.
And in 1988, A$AP Rocky.
Oh, you had A$AP Rocky on there. Did not have
Yes.
Nev Campbell. Nev
I did
Campbell's
it all
birthday.
in there.
Also on this day in 1181, St. Francis of Assisi. Yeah.
11.
1181.
Yeah.
Or 82. They're not sure.
Died on this day. I only have two.
Oh, wait, no, hang on. He died on this day.
Oh.
Yeah, today's the 3rd. He died
Okay.
on this day. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I skipped right through that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Died on this day besides him. In 1936, John Heisman died of pneumonia. What did I say? 36?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I meant. And in 2004, Janet Leigh died as well.
Oh.
Yeah. It is National Boyfriend Day. We'll not be celebrating that. It's also Mean Girls Day.
Deep exhale before that. That was perfectly delivered. I don't even know if it was intentional.
I saw it and I was like, deep sigh.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. That's the state of history.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk Mary Bird Perkins next. I can't find the damn press release anymore. I had it. Yeah. Got it.
Jason says,
Turn up the radio. Jason said.
until the Bronco chase, I refuse to believe OJ had anything to do with it. Troy said it was a huge mistake on nudity day. That's what she said. Super B Finder said, ask the DOTD why we are planning huge amounts of traffic before we have built a bridge to alleviate huge amounts of traffic. Did you call earlier, Super B Finder? Because I already gave Brian that question. I did my job.
So, no, a lot of people are going to have that question, though. I get it.
Yeah.
But I think the short answer, and I don't want to speak for DOTD here, but I think the short answer is, do you really want to wait 15 years before doing anything? Because we all know that's how long a bridge is going to take to build, right? At least a decade, probably more, from the time they break ground. And when are they breaking ground? When? Not next year. Not the year after.
But somebody in the Louisiana Citizens Advocacy Group said that they were...
Bruh. I can't do nothing for you, man. That's a Flavor Flav. 816, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Big news coming down late last week from the Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. They're getting a $2 million grant from the Merck Foundation to advance equitable care in North Baton Rouge. What does that mean? What's that going to look like in real life? Joining us now to talk about this is Angela Hammett. Angela, good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Brian. Thank you so much for having me on so we can share our super exciting news.
So it is exciting news, and I don't want it overlooked because this is, when we talk about healthcare in North Baton Rouge, the topic of conversation in Baton Rouge for so long was about having an emergency room. When you look at cancer rates and patterns throughout the community, this is every bit as much of a huge deal when it comes down to serving the community.
Absolutely. Yes. Our incidence of cancer in North Baton Rouge is higher than any other area in Louisiana.
Yep.
And, part of that is attributed to the area's high poverty rate. So we really want to make sure that patients that are afflicted with cancer are able to receive the high quality evidence-based care that they need no matter where they live in our community.
We're talking with Angela Hammett about a $2 million grant from the Merck Foundation that will advance equitable care in North Baton Rouge for cancer. Angela, is there a particular type of cancer that this is targeting, or will this just be overall help?
This is actually any patient that is affected. They have to be currently diagnosed as a cancer patient,
Okay.
Not a particular type of cancer patient, but we're really targeting 7 different zip codes. And what our goals are to improve our patient navigation services to where the patients have improved care coordination. They get into the physician quicker, they see the surgeon quicker, they see the oncologist quicker, whatever they need according to their disease state. And then we also want to shore up our patient-centered communication and engagement, really helping empower patients to be able to have conversations with their physicians, and then have the physicians and the providers giving the patients information in which they can absorb. And then we also, our third pillar with this particular grant is to make sure that we have access to psychosocial care for these patients. As you can imagine, any patient diagnosed with cancer, there's going to be some psychosocial issues that need to be addressed, whether it just be needing a counselor to talk to or someone to talk through financial arrangements. There's something that's called financial distress that affects lots of different people from lots of different socioeconomic statuses, where unless you assess for it, you don't know that it's there, and it can actually have a negative impact on a patient's course of treatment if they are more worried about paying the bill than actually going and getting the treatment. So it's really education all the way around for our patients, for our providers, and really that really great coordination of care.
Fantastically thorough, as that is an important part of the whole battle against cancer, is being up for the battle. There's a lot to that.
That's exactly right. Yeah. A lot of times patients, if they just don't know what their disease state is and what their course of treatment, some patients will just not want to have treatment when they have a very treatable disease state. So it's really just making sure that we are using culturally competent language that patients can understand, that we are encouraging patients to be able to have those thorough conversations with their physicians about their disease state and what their options are, having them really be able to participate in their health care.
What's this look like on the ground? I mean, is this like a its own clinic, its own structure? Are we building out here in North Baton Rouge?
Yeah, so at this point, what we're doing is we are in the very beginnings of our 5-year grant. So we are doing a community needs assessment. We're going to be doing listening sessions where we think we know what the plan is, but we need to be in the community for them to, for that plan to be validated or for us to change that plan. So there's a few different areas that we plan to use these funds in order to make these changes.
We're talking with Angela Hammett about a recent $2 million grant from the Merck Foundation. What got us on this path here? Was this something we were actively seeking, or did Merck kind of blitz everybody with a little bit of this, hey, here's what's up for grabs?
Yeah. Noted that this grant was available, and as we started to look into it, we thought that it would be a perfect fit for our area, and the people that we are keeping company with, there are some pretty heavy hitters in the world of cancer care. So I'm super proud of the fact that Merck identified us as an area of need and thought that we could really make a difference and move the needle in community cancer care. Some of the other recipients are, let's see, who all was it, Brian? There's 7 of them, and I'm drawing a blank because I don't have them in front of me. But it was, it's like Memorial Sloan Kettering and Robert Wood Johnson. So we are one of 7 entities across the country that have been tapped to start this work.
You mentioned earlier a little bit talking about the need and talking about the populace and the number of incidents of cancer throughout North Baton Rouge. Are there any outlets for care within North Baton Rouge now, or would this be a first?
Here in the North Baton Rouge area, we just want to make sure that the patients are able to access that care. And if it is something that they need to come over to Essen for a particular treatment, that they can get there, there are no barriers between where the patients live and getting to Essen if that's the best course of treatment for them.
Implementation-wise, what's this going to look like on the timeline? You talked about the 5 years worth for the $2 million, but as far as getting started beyond the assessment, is there a closing time for that assessment to get started on building and opening things up?
Yes, so we will start in identifying patients in January of 2023. I have hired a fantastic prior educator to help us run this grant. Her name is Nicole Honore. She's held several different positions within our city and our state in the education realm. And she recently comes to us from 100 Black Men. She was their director of programs. So she will be running the grant on a day-to-day basis. And then we will be increasing staffing where appropriate. We will be coordinating more care with other entities, meaning Baton Rouge General, Women's Hospital, just to make sure that, the patients that we are all sharing, that they are providing that, they're getting provided that high level of care across each systems network.
Let's talk long-term for just a second before we get you out of here. $2 million is a great jump start, but I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb when I say that this is going to spread like wildfire. I mean, good work begets more good work, begets more work, and I'm sure once this door is open, there will be no shortage of folks lined up. So what are the plans long-term once that $2 million is utilized to make sure this is sustainable to continue to provide this service?
Yeah, I really hope my goal is that we put some really fabulous systems in place and that we share these best practices across the community so that they can be just built in to our day-to-day operations so that it becomes, sustainable and we're able to broaden this scope and reach throughout our, community of networks across the Gulf Coast, all of the, other Mary Bird Perkins, but then we'll also be presenting some of, what we've learned, lessons learned across the country when all of the Merck entities get together. So it's our hope is to really to make this really beautiful program that's replicable and evidence based, and then be able to share it to where it can have a far and wide reach, even outside of our state.
She is Angela Hammett, heading up the logistics behind this $2 million grant. Angela, my wife's going to kill me if I don't ask. You still riding that retreat high?
I am. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for a couple minutes, and thank you so much for this work that you're doing here. It's going to be very, very impactful. I appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks so much, Brian. Take care.
You too. Hey, look, let's go back to it. We talked last hour about what positive things can you see in Baton Rouge. How about we add that one to the list? Maybe, maybe not, maybe. How many times do we have things like this particular story where you have folks in Baton Rouge stepped up to help out? Boom, they're rewarded with $2 million from the Merck Foundation, and they'll be off and running in very short order. She said early 2023 to start taking on patients. It's pretty phenomenal. We're not nearly done yet. We're going to check in with Ashley Rodrigue in our next segment about the efforts going on in Florida to help search and recovery right now. Search and rescue, I should say, right now. But beyond that, where are we headed in Florida for helping rebuild after Hurricane Ian? We'll talk with Ashley Rodrigue from the State Fire Marshal's office in our next segment. Right now, though, going to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. They've got two locations, Plank Road in Zachary, and then Perkins just east of Bluebonnet here in Baton Rouge. Complete Collision Center, you can get them on the phone. 768-9898 is the phone number, 768-9898. I went over to Complete Collision Center a couple weeks ago. I happen to be a customer over there far too many times. No, this time it was because it was actually for my wife's car this time. We ran over something and ripped that little guard, that splash shield underneath the engine. Quick replacement. Called up Complete Collision Center at 768-9898, said, how can you help? They said, give me the VIN number and we'll find the part for you. We'll let you know when the part comes in, because you can still, the car still functions without it. Went over there, got to sit down, chat with Doug for a little while. Love getting the chance to chat with Doug, because you get a little bit more of the inside of the inside baseball of what they do. And the level of communication that he has with each and every one of his customers that come into Complete Collision Center. When you think about it, when you are without your vehicle, even if you've got a rental, it throws off the rest of your schedule, doesn't it? It just throws everything. It is as they said in Die Hard, the monkey in the wrench, right? It throws everything else off. Well, if you know every step of the way where your vehicle is headed and how long it is before you get back to your normal routine, it adds so much more. Check them out online at CompleteCollision.com. Like I said, the phone number 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out Complete Collision and CompleteCollision.com. So we'll talk about Hurricane Ian in our next segment. I was hoping to have enough room on the back end here to pick up the discussion from before about what's going on over at BRPD. Yesterday, James Finn over at The Advocate posted up an article about, a cop that was arrested for leaking information to informants. I'm looking at the clock right now, though, and I don't have enough time to open that discussion up and unpack it. We talked about it earlier in the show. You know what? Let's push pause right there. We'll pick that discussion up in our last segment of the show today, because it ties into so many other discussions that law enforcement has to face right now. Right now, though, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to check our CBS News. We'll get the latest on the death toll and more from Hurricane Ian. We will also hear from our own local news, traffic, and weather. We'll come back. Let's talk about the efforts from Louisiana to Florida coming up next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. So, you know how I love to talk about the Acts ministry? And my wife just was the last director of the women's retreat. Angela was her co-director. And I didn't even realize, I thought she was still over at Women's Hospital. I get the press release from Mary Bird Perkins, and I see her name on it. I'm like, well, son of a gun, look who I'm calling on Monday. Deborah. Yeah. Right. Okay, so that's a good point. Like when a story gets beyond the news to the sensational, when we get past the nuts and bolts of it and we get to the voyeurism of it, everybody looking at the train wreck part. Like when who was the woman that killed her daughter in Florida? Casey Anthony. You know, when the quote unquote news shows when we have Casey Anthony's former sophomore in high school year bestie. Like, what do you know about Casey Anthony today? Well, I knew back in school she was a no good Nick. You know, like right. 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 You want LSU to answer for their current coach's previous administration or previous stop along her career. Yeah. Well, silence is violence. Can't it? Hey. Exactly my effing point. Oh, I mean, can't imagine why.
But yeah, Don Staley cancels a game, talks all this shit about BYU, was wrong about it, didn't take back her comments about it or anything like that. And everyone's like, Dawn Staley, hell yeah. It just makes me so. It riles
See,
me.
I can be mad about the first one without doing the comparative on the second one. If I were to try and be mad about that level of hypocrisy, I'd be fake mad about it. I can be legitimately mad about trying to trap
I'm annoyed about
our
both.
coach.
Yeah. Because weather, but hypocrisy just pisses me off.
I mean, when you talk picture perfect forecasts, if everything holds to plan, this is looking good. High of 86 today, overnight low tonight 60. High of 86 tomorrow, overnight low of 62. We're topping out at 86 or 87 degrees the rest of the week, except for Friday where it gets up to 89. But then game day Saturday, we're looking at 82 for a high. I'm not showing any chance of rain in the forecast again until at least next Wednesday. It's just we should have some pretty great weather for the very near future. Right now, we're still looking at 61% humidity in downtown Baton Rouge with a temperature of 67 degrees. .38 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. From the State Fire Marshal Office's perspective, that sweet little thing might be the incident management team, which is on the road or actually in Florida right now. Joining us now to talk about this from the Fire Marshal's office is Ashley Rodrigue. Ashley, welcome aboard. How are you?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me.
No, glad to have you on this morning. Glad to be talking about this because when something like this happens in the wake of what we've seen for the last few years, we're actually faced with an opportunity to pay back a little bit. So let's dive in. What is the incident management team and how did it come to be?
Sure. So the incident management team is actually a FEMA component of the entirety of the FEMA emergency response system that they've created over time. And an incident management team is essentially the brains of an operation. It includes an operations chief, it includes a planning chief, it includes a PIO like myself, it includes our incident commander, and really it is the administrative function of a response. In this instance, our incident management team has been tasked at the moment to an area in South Lee County, northern Collier County, which is really the hardest hit area, to find, which they did yesterday, and establish, which they did yesterday, what we call a base of operations for responders that are coming in from outside of that area to set up shop and then go out into the community and help those local emergency response entities that are overwhelmed right now and personally affected to get their community's recovery on the ground and going. So our folks at this point are setting up a site for all of these responders that are coming in to be able to sleep at night, come to get meals, and kind of, take their downtime before they go out throughout the day to help out where they can with those locals, need relative to their recovery.
I would imagine the communication on the ground has to be pretty thorough because we can come in with a load of energy and a load of want to help, but not knowing the streets, the back roads, and the how to get from here to there. That level of communication's got to be top notch.
Absolutely, and the best role that our folks can take on when they get sent into an area is to find those local entities like the fire departments, like the police departments, like the sheriff's departments, and link up with them and pretty much say, what are your needs, where are they at, show us where to go, and then we'll get you guys set up and help guide you to do what we unfortunately know how to do very well, which is to get our feet back on the ground. So that is really where our folks have been focused when they left on Thursday. They came in to the Tallahassee area where the state emergency operations center is to kind of get some direction. They directed them down to this particular area. And then as of yesterday, we're tasked with setting up this site. And so they've done that, and they are full-fledged at this point today, now working hand in hand with those local emergency response entities to get an idea of what's been overwhelming them and then to help sort of coordinate and tackle that for them.
Do we have an early idea of what those things are from a details perspective? What is overwhelming them? What are they looking at for the coming days?
Truthfully, as I understand, even as of yesterday, a lot of these emergency entities have not gotten their eyes on their entire community. So they don't know the level of damage that they're dealing with, either from a resident perspective or from the actual local government's perspective to infrastructure or their own buildings. They've also not, as I understand, really gotten a chance to close out search and rescue efforts. So there's still a lot of work going on that generally, and again, unfortunately, we've had a lot of experience in our past 2 years to do things that we have been able to get done within 2 days. They're still struggling to get their arms around today.
Walk me through that perspective a little bit, because we can kind of get warped in our timelines based off of our own past. Are we from a timeline perspective, are we still where we would normally expect search and rescue, search and recovery to be going on?
I would say there probably isn't a cookie cutter sort of timeline for that. And I would certainly say that the timelines we had in the past 2 years were exemplary timelines to have, whole communities, looked at in 2 days' time. But the reality is, for Ida, we had 1,200 first responders, search and rescue groups from across the country sitting, waiting to go in. So we had just an overabundance of readiness. I don't know what the numbers were in Florida, but it certainly seems like there's a lot more ground to cover than they had ready at front. And they're, getting that tackled as they can. And so I would say if there was a normal, this might be a little longer than normal. But I wouldn't say that in my experience seeing the past 2 years worth of work that they're terribly behind. The reality is they have had quite an extensive amount of damage over quite an extensive space over their state. Whereas, for us, say particularly using Ida as an example, the biggest, hardest hit areas were Terrebonne, Lafourche, Grand Isle, some of those generally smaller communities, as a whole, even though they're kind of rural and have a lot of, wide space to kind of check out. In these areas that we're talking about in Florida, they are highly populated areas. You have a lot more structures. You have a lot more large structures. You have just a lot more space to cover from south to north, if you will. And so it's a lot of work. So I wouldn't really, say that there's a cookie cutter answer for the kind of work that they're looking at, as certainly every storm is different.
We're talking with Ashley Rodrigue from the State Fire Marshal's office about the incident management team that is in Florida right now. How big is the team?
The team is made up of 10 or 11 people, and majority of them are State Fire Marshal employees, but we do have Baton Rouge Fire as well as St. George Fire members part of the team. And this comes from years of work in building team members who are specialized in those certain tasks that I was mentioning when we first got started, relative to operations section chief or planning section chief. And those individuals are, highly, at this point, credentialed by FEMA and tasked with, really running that portion of the management need.
What reports have you gotten back so far as to the extent of the damage? I mean, if they haven't seen everything yet, they have seen some things so far. So how much has been able to make it back to your office?
Sure. No, they've definitely seen, a lot of what we saw in the past 2 years. So what they're seeing, at least in my conversations with them, is not astounding to the point where they've never seen it before, if that makes sense. But it's heartbreaking, just like it was in our own communities, to see not only businesses completely on the ground, roofs of many, many homes completely gone. Certainly that's a very waterfront community throughout that Florida area. So you've got also there a lot of marine vessels that are damaged, sunk on land now instead of on water. So there's a lot to get out of the way, to even, transportate or, get yourself around. They've certainly talked about having to take a lot longer time than they thought they were going to get from one place to the next, and having to do a lot of road clearing of their own. So that's sort of the extent of the things that they're seeing. And certainly, the response is, they've got a lot coming, but not anything that we haven't seen before. And again, that's not a great hat to be, having a feather in, but it's a good thing in that, we've seen this, we know how to do it. And so that's certainly fortunate.
No, and yeah, we do have so many comps right here in Louisiana where they can get, you don't want to say real life training, but they'll get similar layouts, ground layouts and whatnot, whether that be, you talk about the Marine vessels run aground. We saw a ton of that in Port Fourchon last year. We saw a ton of that up by Lafourche last year. But take it back a year before that with Hurricane Laura and that mix of rural versus city with Lake Charles versus the surrounding area. I would imagine they have a pretty decent idea of how to manage these different types of terrain.
Absolutely, and that's where the benefit of having folks there comes into play, especially since Florida already had, elements of, we call FEMA teams that FEMA sort of supports directly, coming from places like Pennsylvania, Indiana. Certainly those folks are highly trained. However, these things happen in our backyard. And so we were able to see it from a multitude of perspectives, not just response, but literally those living in those communities responding to it as a victim as well. So you have a different perspective in how to handle things like that. It's not just a boat in the way. It's not just a roof on the ground. It's someone's home. It's someone's property. It's something that people love. So there's also that gentle touch that we've got to it too. And that's really important as pertaining to working with first responders who are taking the time away from dealing with their sort of victim hat to support their community and to have that additional element of our folks being there and just being a listening ear or helping them understand, we know how hard this is, so we'll work with you through that. Is certainly, as I understand, been a really helpful element to the people that they're encountering.
Well, we'll continue to touch base as the effort moves forward. Meanwhile, we appreciate a couple minutes in the information. Ashley Rodrigue, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I have trouble separating the work on the ground versus what the people of Florida are feeling. If you are one of those first responders, there's that part in the back of your mind every time you're out helping others that you're not home rebuilding your own home. Like that factors into this. So every person that we could put there for, a couple of innings of relief can help in that regard too. And the more they get assessments on their own damage, the better they can help all the others out there. We know the story. We've been down this path far too many times. Hey, in the meanwhile, the folks over at the Better Business Bureau are letting us know how we can help or what pitfalls to avoid. Better Business Bureau put out a press release last week. Want you to look at a number of different things before committing to help with the appeal for Hurricane Ian. We'll talk about that after we check your money now and one more check of traffic right here on Talk 107.3 FM. What's the live read I haven't done yet? Yes. Okay. Gotcha. I don't know what that is either. I'm going to have to make them all up tomorrow. TikTok wants to buy me. What? I do love me some TikTok. Although I'm starting to wane a little bit. The more people I know on it, number one, it's no longer this little safe haven away from everybody else. It's like it used to be I was behaved on Facebook and acted a fool on Twitter. But then everybody else is on Twitter, so I have to start cleaning up my shit over there. So now it's like TikTok is my little safe haven. No, not anymore. Busted. Yeah. That's where I'm at. Scusi. In a minute. In a minute.
Byron says he wants to follow you around while you're driving and just film you until you get in an accident so he can send it to Chive TV.
Please do that. Yes. Sorry, all my notes for that last interview were on my phone.
Oh, and Super Bee Finder wants to know if Luke Mixon's coming on soon, and I told him that I've been trying to tell you to get him on.
So yeah, Luke's coming on soon. And I can say definitively that if I text Luke, he'll text me back.
Yeah. Because that man's word means something. Because he says, I give you my word, and this means something.
Word?
You know what I mean?
I really, really don't.
He's a man of his word. Sometimes that's all a man has.
Oh. I almost did a Scarface impression. All I have in this world is my balls and my word. I don't break them for no one. Kevin Harlan here. I got to tell you, went over to a friend's house for a minute last night and drive back, had the Westwood One call of the NFL. And it is good. It is good. It is not like I'm not going to. Whoa!
What the hell?
Bunch of women playing with their boobies.
At 8 in the morning?
Good Morning America has a group called the Breasties doing a self-exam. Hello. That was unexpected.
Oh. And it's only Monday. At least I can look forward to the fact that I'm going to have a good weekend. Maybe. I asked my grandma if I could cocktail on Saturday night to make some money, so I probably won't be, like, relaxing.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to have my tequila Friday when I got to be on campus for dawn Saturday.
Fair enough.
I might just
go still wasted.
I can't do that broadcast wasted.
Just do the tequila Friday earlier.
That doesn't work that way.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to get back into the law enforcement thing. It's a bigger topic. There's so much more to peel back. Do I? The other part about TikTok that's nice. Excellent. The other awesome part about the other part about TikTok that is just wearing me thin is it doesn't matter how many times I tell TikTok I'm not interested in a video because of my demographic, they're going to feed me certain videos. Now, you might be thinking I'm talking like the women trying to push you over to OnlyFans. No, I don't know why, but TikTok insists that I want to watch videos from all the First Amendment warrior people out there who get pulled over and try to give the cops crap the entire time. I actively go in and click and say not interested. And then the algorithm does not adjust to me. I don't want that either. Been a busy show so far. I say so far, it's the last segment. Been a busy show today. Condon came in, just tore a path through Monday. Like, he covered a lot of ground today. I mean, a lot. That was non sequitur radio, to be sure. We talked with Our Lady of the Lake about liver cancer. Stephen Waguespack. Fantastic conversation with Stephen Waguespack. If you missed it, it'll be available on demand at talk1073.com. About the nature of entrepreneurism. And we have a crew. We'll call them a crew. We got a squad here in Baton Rouge of young entrepreneurs who are just super optimistic about the future. And the conversation turns to, how do you nurture that and provide guidance and not be the curmudgeon? Like, can you provide active guidance without squashing? To point out all the pitfalls that you're going to have in Baton Rouge. Like, if you're a young entrepreneur, you don't have kids yet, you don't have to worry about how awful schools are. If you are a young entrepreneur and you know, stick in your little bubble, you might not worry about crime. It's a really great conversation. It'll be available at talk1073.com. Angela Hammett joined us to talk about Mary Bird Perkins moving into North Baton Rouge to serve there, and Ashley Rodrigue from the State Fire Marshal's office in our last segment. Hey, I told you going into the break that the Better Business Bureau has some guidance out for helping out in the wake of Hurricane Ian. Before I get to that, though, I want to remind you about the folks over at St. James Place. You know where to find the campus. It's on Lee, right by Highland. Gorgeous campus. Wonderful, independent living, assisted living, nursing care. It is an all-inclusive life plan community. If you've heard of St. James Place and heard of them in terms of a nursing home, squash that. Check them out online at stjamesplace.org, stjamesplace.org, or call them at 215-4500. If you're approaching that chapter of your life that includes retirement, if you're moving into the next chapter, St. James Place is a fantastic option. You just got to learn more about them to maybe dispel a few of those myths that they might have. Check them out online, stjamesplace.org. Live life well. So the Better Business Bureau says they've got some tips before you donate to Hurricane Ian relief. A few of those tips. Is the disaster appeal clear? The contribution request should clearly identify what disaster relief activities you are supporting. There are many possibilities such as temporary shelter, food, medical care, and other emergency needs. Don't assume what they do based solely on the group's name. That's an important thing to look out for. Does the charity already have a presence in the impacted area? Yes, look out for the fly-by-night organization. Is the charity an experienced relief organization? And number 3 is kind of the same as number 2. If considering crowdfunding, do you know their procedures? It's important to dive in on that one as well. Does the organization meet the 20 BBB charity standards? And when in doubt, check it out. That's coming from the Better Business Bureau. We're done for today. Let's get you to the Fox News Rundown. Right back at it tomorrow on Talk 107.3. Oh, I got Monday morning meeting. We'll see y'all YouTube later.